Senator Rick Santorum.
Thank you, Tom, very, very much, and I'm honored to have you here with me today. And really, this is a very important moment for me and for this campaign. There is no more important issue in the minds of the voters of Pennsylvania than the issue of the security of this country. Whether that security be in our neighborhoods from drugs and gang violence and all of the other issues that we're dealing with in our communities, whether the issue be security at our borders to make sure that we are keeping our country safe from those who have come here to do us harm, or whether the issue is national security, to protect ourselves against this looming and growing and now almost exigent threat that is out there that would like to see the United States and the rest of the Western world be destroyed. We see that in very graphic detail from the events of yesterday with North Korea and its nuclear testing. Security is the #1 issue in this campaign. And at a time when our nation's security is threatened, we have a choice. Do you want someone who is straightforward and honest with you? Someone who will share the information? Someone who will accurately and calmly assess the threat before us and be very frank about what they want to do with that threat? Or someone who hides, someone who doesn't give interviews, someone who doesn't give opinions, someone who doesn't give positions, someone who's simply trying to use his name to get elected to the United States Senate? Our country is in a very serious time. And I can't tell you how much it means to me to have these gentlemen up here. Our Chief Law Enforcement Officer, Tom Corbett. I want to thank Mark for the FOP, Chuck for the local lodge here, Joe, State Lodge. Thank you so much for standing with us at this very critical time. Tom and Mark mentioned the track record that I have on fighting crime, everything from the crime that insidious crime of the internet, of exploitation of children, and the work that we've done here with Project Safe Childhood and the Safe Schools Act, which we just passed a few weeks ago. The work that we've done on drugs, which is a major scourge in our land today, with the Combat Meth Act, which I was one of the principal sponsors of, to try to stop the domestic supply of methamphetamines. From the work that I've done in gang violence and securing for Pennsylvania $2.5 million to try to go after gang activity, particularly in the 222 corridor outside of Philadelphia. Again, working with our Attorney General, with state and local law enforcement, our state troopers, as well as our local police. I was on the front line, making sure that we were getting the resources we need to combat crime here at home. I've worked on weed and seed. I was just in Upper Darby the other day in southeastern Pennsylvania. I went to them and said, you've got a problem that we can help you with. And we went out and got them a weed and seed grant. So we've been working proactively with our local law enforcement, with our state law enforcement, to secure America, to secure Pennsylvania first. But secondly, you have an issue of securing America. And we've made a point in this campaign about immigration because of the amount of damage. Mark is from Hazleton. I think Mark can probably answer these questions better than I can. But now Scranton is considering the same thing because a lot of the folks from Hazleton have moved to Scranton. And so we're seeing this problem where you have a criminal element, unfortunately, a large one, that creeps across the border and wreaks havoc in our society and in Pennsylvania. So border security is important, and that's why we've made it a high priority in this campaign. And then finally, the issue of the day, but really it's not an issue of the day. This is an issue that's been out there for a long time. It's an issue I've been talking about for a long time. And unfortunately, far too many people have not paid attention. We are up against a group of countries that are working together, not because they share an ideology, but they share an enemy, and that enemy is us. There's no question in my mind that there are Iranian scientists in Tehran, from Tehran up in Pyongyang in North Korea, and then there are North Korean scientists in Iran, and in Venezuela, and in other places around the world that you saw on display at the United Nations just a few weeks ago, rattling their saber about how they are going to take down the United States. We can look at these folks as third world countries, underdeveloped countries that are not a threat to this country. One of the greatest threats, one of the greatest lessons, I should say, that I learned as a young man was in Little League. When I would go up to the plate and I'd see this little kid. I was a big guy. Mark and I share a lot in common. I was a big guy. You know, I had to get a special uniform for me in Little League because I was so big. And so I would go up there and I'd say, oh, there's this little guy, this pitcher. I'm going to cream this guy. 3 strikes later, I was back on the bench. Why? Because I didn't respect my opponent. The greatest fear I have for this country is we don't respect our opponent. We don't respect the enemy of North Korea. We look at this man and we make fun of him because he's a little guy who likes NBA basketball. That's a real funny thing, except for the fact that he now has a nuclear weapon. We look at President Ahmadinejad and the people in the Middle East and say, oh, they're backward, they live in caves, they don't have any, they can't, how can they take on the United States? Because they have an ideology that appeals to potentially a billion people. And they are effectively, every single day, eroding the will of the American public. That's why we should fear these people. And that while they don't have a common ideology, they work together. They work together because they do have a common enemy. This is a serious time. A serious time. And we need serious leadership. We need people who are willing to look you in the eye and tell you the facts as they are, not hide in Scranton and do one campaign event over the past 2 weeks, just so they can get elected without having to say anything, without having to confront the issues. This is a serious time. In Pennsylvania, whether you like it or not, this is the biggest Senate race in the country. And it's going to have a lot to do. This election and this result is going to have a lot to do about our nation's resolve to confront these serious issues today.